Going on, Falcon fan? This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So today we're going to talk about Atlanta Falcons get their first victory in 5 weeks. Of course, it was a sweet victory because it was against our rivalry, the New Orleans Aints. Now the Atlanta Falcons actually lead the series event by one game. Yes, it's been back and forth that much. So, when people talk about rivalries and things like that, um, the Falcons ain't rivalry. It's definitely a rivalry, guys. It's going back and forth. It don't matter the records. Um, Fan bases love to get into it. Most time when Atlanta Falcon fans go to New Orleans, it's a party, man. And it feels a whole lot sweeter when we can actually get a win. So those are the good things. You know, despite what's going on this season, you know, with this Atlanta Falcons team, the fact that the Atlanta Falcons could actually, you know, get a win is a good thing, right? We're gonna get into about this season into its entirety. Um, this season is not it's nothing like we expected. However, the Atlanta Falcons do have 6 games left. If you look at in the division NFC South, um, Baker Mayfield went down. We got the Carolina Panthers playing the San Francisco 49ers tonight. Believe it or not, the Atlanta Falcons still are in the hunt to in this division, right? They got 6 games left, so they're not out of it yet, not by no stretch. For the NFC South, mind you, they still probably have opportunity to get in the wild card as well. So we just don't know. But when you think about the this tumultuous season that the Atlanta Falcons have had so far, um, going on that 5 game losing streak, losing all our freaking players, um, you know, it's just they still have a chance, right? So if you're a Falcon fan and you still can have time to to enjoy what's going on and see if the Atlanta Falcons turn this thing around. Personally, you know how I feel about it. I don't think they can turn it around. Just to be honest with you, um, but it's still good to see the Atlanta Falcons show some of the things that we've seen. The inconsistency is still there. We're going to talk about the game today, the recap on all that stuff. We'll also talk about how injuries definitely could could affect what the Atlanta Falcons was going through. For the off season. We're going to talk about that as well. So, guys, with that, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button, as I know you guys are here to talk about. And please share my video throughout to YouTube universe so more people can come here and talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So, we want to get into the first um, topic today, and that's the game recap, right? So let's just go ahead and add this to the stage. So the game recap, we're looking at the Atlanta Falcons um, game against the New Orleans Aints. That's the biggest thing we want to definitely look at today. And you know, if you look at the game in its entirety, I would say that the Atlanta Falcons still didn't play a really, really, so-called clean game. It just was not the case. They had only 302 total yards, 181 passing yards, 121 rushing yards, which is balanced. It's definitely balanced. Um, 5.5 yards per play, um, 13 first downs, and still the Atlanta Falcons still having issues on third down. There was only 3 for 12 on third down, which is not good at all. There was 1 for 1 on fourth down, which is 100% on that. But third downs has still been an issue. The defense did come to play today, which was good. The Atlanta Falcons had 5 total sacks, um, and they had caused 2 turnovers as well. So um, you love to see that. But Atlanta Falcons lost the time possession. So we'll get into the game. How the Atlanta Falcons was able to still pull this thing off, because they made key plays in situational football where over the last couple games, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that's where they were not able to do. They were not able to make those plays on the defense side of the ball. So, um, props up to the Atlanta Falcons and they going out and being able to get a gritty win against um, the Aints. Man, it's one of those kind of games. A lot of times when we having a down year as a Falcon fan, being the Aints make you feel better, and it definitely made me feel better yesterday. So, whatever by any means necessary, you go out and win this game. And believe it or not, they still had an opportunity to keep their hopes alive. I think if they would have lost the game yesterday, it definitely would have been to a place where I don't think they could have recovered from. But you know, being able to do what they did, shout out to them. Um, but looking at the game in its entirety, um, from a statistical standpoint, I still don't think the Atlanta Falcons played well. Right? They did enough to win, and definitely going to talk about that. But just looking at front, they lost the time possession. They still was not good on third down. Um, the Aints, outgained them in yards. But where it matters the most, and what it always going to come boil down to, always going to come down to, the scoreboard. And the Atlanta Falcons only gave up 3 points on offense. They did give up a pick six, Kyle Pitts' hands, and I can say he did not have a good game yesterday, to say the least. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and stop sharing the screen for that. All right. So, you know, let's talk about the offenses. It's let's start with offense. So the Atlanta Falcons decided to come out with a heavy personnel, kind of reminiscent, right? If you go back probably about 3 years now, we had a guy here that relish in 12 and 13 personnel, and he used that a lot. And I'm talking about Arthur Smith, right? So the game plan that they implemented yesterday um, was familiar. It's not something that we have not seen over the last years, for years, about how the Atlanta Falcons like to utilize a heavy set of tight ends going in 13 personnel. So that's not anything new. However, what was new was the amount of times that, especially in this offensive scheme, that Kirk Cousins found himself up under center. If you even go back to last year when he started, he did not play that much up under center. Now, of course, they stated that was due to the coming back from the injuries and things like that. But for the most part, when you look at what Kirk Cousins did yesterday, it was sort of amazing. I'm not going to even hold you there. It was um, so much play action, and that's what he excelled in. This was one of the things that when the Atlanta Falcons decided to go get you know Kirk Cousins, you know this what they envisioned, right? Beat him up much on the center, doing a lot of play action pass, relying heavy on the run. I think that the fact that they was in a lot more 13 personnel by 11 is really different. Now, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Drake London did not, play in the game yesterday, and we know how he has dominated his offense for the last first 11 weeks, right? We know Drake London was Michael Penix's go-to guy. So they kind of switched up. It was really good to see Darnell Mooney make some plays in the game. We know that him and Kirk Cousins probably have a little better rapport, especially due to the fact that Darnell Mooney missed all the training camp with Michael Penix, and he still was coming back. He also sustained another injury during the season. So, that chemistry that Kirk Cousins built with Darnell Mooney, Michael Penix never really had that kind of chemistry. But it was really good to see that yesterday from Kirk Cousins and Darnell Mooney. They still also had some chemistry with Kirk Cousins already, going playing scout teams and things like that. So that was also good to see. So from the offensive standpoint, they was able to get Bijan and Tyler going a little bit in the run game. They stuck with it, which is really important, right? Because that really helped the play action pass. Um, they got Charlie Warner involved in the passing game a little bit. I think he had probably more receptions yesterday than he had all season. So really, really good, scheme that they decided to come with the New Orleans Inks yesterday. We know that New Orleans is going to be a physical team. We know Dan Staley, that's what he's going to do. He's going to come out. He's going to be real aggressive, and that's what he showed yesterday. Um, and we kind of probably caught him off guard because I'm pretty sure they was thinking more 11 personnel, you know, coming up trying to stop Bijan from getting going. But we did a really good job yesterday. Now I know a lot of people is going out and wondering why that Michael Penix couldn't have been on the center, and things like that. And after the season, those are some of the things that Raheem Morris gonna have to think about, right? Right? What could have did different, right? I think putting Michael Penix up on the center, just mixing up a little bit, which I think what most of us was asking in the first place, we just didn't get to see at all for the most part. He did most of his, I think 95% of Michael Penix snaps was in the pistol or in a shotgun. Vikes put him up on the center, and it's not like he can do that, right? If you go back to watching some of his watching the film, he did um, come up on the center in those games. So it wouldn't have been foreign to him. I don't know why they assumed that the comfortability for Michael Penix was always in shotgun, but this is a different game plan. Now we know, one of the reasons why, because Michael Penix is more mobile than Kirk Cousins, right? So the explanation that Raheem Morris gave today was, you know, they did it for more protection, keeping him in the pocket, going through his reads, doing the things he had to do. So, but for whatever reason, it's going to be like a totally different offense moving, these last 6 games than it was the first 11 games, right? So just sometimes you have to shake your head and wonder why, right? You're never going to go out and try to figure things out in that accent. What's going on with you, Terry? You're never going to try to figure out and wonder why um, coaches do what they do. Different quarterback comes in, different game plan, and let's Kirk Cousins has been in the league 13 years, so he know his comfortability that was making it more comfortable with him. He had more um, time to put his game plan in, especially when he knew he was going to be your starter for the remainder of the year. So the comfortability you give Kirk Cousins understood. So I don't think people should be trying to go and try to figure out why they didn't put Michael Penix up on the center. It's a good question to ask and things like that. But, you know, you're going to put the player in the best position that they need to be in to be comfortable. Like I said, Michael Penix seemed like he would have been comfortable up on the center as well because he didn't. It's not like it would have been foreign to him. However, they decided to go on a different route. So, we can second guess that decision. At this point, it probably really don't matter because they never did it. You know, and maybe the offense will look better. They decided to go up on the center with Michael Penix, like they did with Kirk Cousins yesterday. But like I said, heavy 13 personnel, um, 13, 12, and probably that had a lot to do not having Drake, right? You take away one of the main weapons on your offense. You need to do what you need to do to get a win. That's what they did. So I'm gonna tip my hat off to the um the Atlanta Falcons offensive staff. Yes, I'm talking about Zach Robinson as well because the game plan they had, it worked well enough to get the job done when you had some players out. So kudos to that. We'll see, you know, how the cookie crumbles moving forward. But there you have it for the offense side of the ball. We did have some miscues. Elijah Wilson jumped offside about 3 times. That's not good. We did give up 3 sacks as well. It's another strip fumble. Kirk Cousins always gets strip fumbles, strip sacks, man. So We need to be able to have the ball better in the pocket. But those are some of the things that, from offensive standpoint, only having 181 yards, 202 yards, you know, I guess you could do better than that. But at the same time, you know, you can't complain when you get a W. So good for them on offense. Now let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. When we talk about the defense, um, it was a mixed bag. Like the Atlanta Falcons pretty much shown what they've shown all year, right? And that's be really, really good getting after the quarterback. Atlanta Falcons is third in the NFL with 39 sacks um, for the season. Put that in respect, they only had 21 sacks last year. 31 through the whole season last year, right? The year before that, probably 20, 19, 18 sacks. So it's a big, big jump, right? So we can't say this. Let's go ahead and say check. They fixed the pass rush, right? However, they still was dominating in the ground game. Now, the first half was different. They only gave up about 25 rushing yards in the first half. In the second half, that's when it all went down with the shits. Straight up. They were not able to stop the run, especially that first drive coming out of the second half. Now, the great thing about what happened yesterday, what was not happening the last 5 games was the Atlanta Falcons defense was able to get stops when they needed stops. Um, that was not the case the 2 weeks prior, right? Gave up almost 500 yards in both of those games. So that just lets you know, um, we always talk about situational football, right? No matter how many yards you give up, right? If you get the stops when you need to get the stops, teams don't get points. So the Atlanta Falcons was able to stop the New Orleans Saints about 3 or 4 times on the Atlanta Falcons side of the field and only gave up 3 points. Now, their kicker had a lot to do with that, of course, because he missed 2 field goals. But stops on fourth down, stops on third down was really huge for this Atlanta Falcon team. So, from a defensive standpoint, still a mixed bag. If you're looking, for things that need to be worked on, they gotta fix the run defense. The run defense is not it. It's just not it, man. It's not doing what you expected to do. It's not doing what you wanted to do. So the run defense is not good at all, right? Divine Diablo came back and he fixed a lot of issues that Atlanta Falcons were having. You can see um, his intent coming downhill, breaking up plays, playing with force, right? Being in the passing game. Or probably had an interception. He had a club on his hand. So those are some of the things that you like to see. Miles 2316 said, "How's Mike Hughes been playing?" Mike Hughes, I thought he played a decent game yesterday. I really did. They targeted him a couple times um, with Chris Olave, but I thought he held his own. He's a physical cornerback. That's what you like to see from your cornerbacks. Him and AJ Terrell both are physical. D. Alford, came in and played physical as well. So I thought the secondary played really physical yesterday, from D. Alford to Jesse Bates to Mike Hughes and to AJ Terrell. All of those guys played really physical yesterday, and that's what you want to be able to see, right? Especially if you're going to put pressure with your front seven, you need your secondary guys to be able to cover. And when they do get an opportunity to be physical, they need to be physical. Um, and you were definitely going to need those guys in the run game because that's where the Atlanta Falcons are lacking right now. Is on the defensive side of the ball, not being able to run the rock. That's a big issue. So um, that's one of the things that we got to think. Let's see here. Terry says, Mike Penny Jr. get both legs done because in college though, doctor is not like doctors and works in NFL players. NFL hires some of the best doctors in the world. Great point. Um, Yeah, one good thing about this, I know we haven't talked about it a lot with his injury since he was out, and he had to have surgery, but it wasn't on one of the legs. It wasn't on the ones he already had repaired. It was the other leg. So, you know, if you can look at for a center line, it's not the same knee, it's the other knee. Um, and just unfortunate for the kid, man. Um, went through so many, trials and tribulations in college. Was able to be healthy his last two seasons in college. Which the reason why he got drafted in the top 10, but just can't. We're gonna see. I definitely think he's gonna come back, um, and we're gonna talk about that in just a minute about what I think about the future here. Um, I should say Jesse Bates, Wake Forest alum, and solid safety. Jesse Bates is a ball hawk, man. He almost had one yesterday. When that's what you like to see. He almost had one yesterday. You say top 12. I think he's higher than top 12. I think he might be top 5 in his position. He's really, really good. He's really, really good. He understands. He understands quarterbacks. He understands the route concepts, and he always trying to set the quarterback back up, but with their eyes. So you love to see that. Yeah, I think he's easily top 5 safety in this league. So maybe even top 3. I don't know if any um, safeties. I can't think of that many, right? But I know at least top 5. We're talking about safeties. So guys, from the defensive standpoint, like I said, um, run defense still the issue. It's going to be huge this week going up against the Jets again. Got to be able to start the run and then do what you do best, get after the quarterback. So um, that's what they got to do. Hopefully they get a lead. They can get putting their ears back and get after the quarterback. All right. That's the recap, guys. Let me know what y'all think about, you know, the the Aints game. We got one more at the end of the season. Um, Going to take a little luster from the game. Unless we still in the hunt and we need that game to win, then it'd really be exciting. So um, let's see how important that game will be. The last game of the season against the New Orleans. All right. The next thing is the last 6 games of the season. So here today, the Atlanta Falcons are 4-7. Um, they got pretty good opponents coming up. In particular, they have the Seattle Seahawks, who's playing really, really, really good football, and the Los Angeles Rams, who probably may be the best team in the league right now. So between both of those teams, those going to be tough, right? Now the remaining games that they got, besides those two, they have the Jets this week, of course. They have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Got the Arizona Cardinals. Those games um, are winnable games. Let's just say that, play that. You know, the Jets going for the number 1 pick in the draft next year. Pretty much looking at their record, they've been spiraling, but they're gonna be a good team. They're gonna be a good opponent for the Atlanta Falcons, especially going up, you know, to New Jersey to play those guys. So we need to get ready for that. Um, Tampa Bay, we know what Tampa Bay is all about. I think that's a Thursday night football game for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, in this case, we don't know the status of Baker Mayfield, so we'll see what happens with that. But if not, Teddy Bridgewater is the backup, so he's going to be a go there. But that game is going to be interesting to see how that pans out, because at this point it depends on what the Carolina Panthers do tonight, right? Against the San Francisco 49ers. Um, Let us know where we're going to be in the NFC South hunt, right? But we could somehow, some way, get back into the NFC South picture, which would be great, because that might be the only option for Atlanta Falcons to get into the playoffs by winning NFC South. Um, and right now, we're definitely two games back. But if you're looking, it's more than 3, because right now our division record is what 1-2 in division. So Um, Actually, yes, 1-2 in the division. We did beat the Aints, but we have lost. Well, 1-3 because we lost twice to the Carolina Panthers. So we're fighting uphill battle in NFC South, but if those guys start to lose, we can creep our way back in. Now it doesn't even matter if the Atlanta Falcons don't win, but that's where it's important. So, like I said, the last 6 games, we got the Jets, the Cardinals, and the Bucks. Those, in my opinion, could definitely be 3 winnable games, especially if Baker Mayfield. It's not going to be a go, right? Those could definitely be winnable games, right? Um, the Seahawks and the Rams. It's going to be our both tough tests. 100%. It's going to be tough games for the Atlanta Falcons, and then we got to be able to get that New Orleans games. But that really going to depend on where the Atlanta Falcons stand going into that last week of the season against the New Orleans Saints. Um, so yes, guys, I have came on here and I said I think the Atlanta Falcons season is done. Still believe that. Still don't see a path for them to winning because they still some of the things that was hurting them in those last 5 losses still affected them yesterday. They just played an opponent that couldn't generate nothing, on offense when they needed to. So, but they still sucked on third down. The Atlanta Falcons. They still couldn't stop the run. So some of the things that was ailing the Atlanta Falcons the last 5 weeks, and they really didn't fix a lot of those things. They did come away with the win, but it still has some issues. So it's gonna be tough to win these last 6 games, but we'll see what happens. In the long run. Um, they just said Condo Michael Penny Jr. might come back like $6 million man with a robotic leg. Yo, Mr. Blank. Yeah, we'll see, man. I can't wait. I can't wait. You know, I think he's supposed to have his surgery this week, so we'll definitely get to hear see about it and see what the timetable is on him. It won't either way. We won't see him till next summer, so just put that in your mind. Won't see him the next summer, but there you have it, guys. Those are the next 6 games. Let's see where the Atlanta Falcons stand. After they have to do 1 week at a time now, right? Because they're so far behind. Don't need to looking that far ahead in the 6 games, but they can definitely set themselves up. So their job this week is just to beat the New York Jets and go from there. And we'll see what the Atlanta Falcons are able to do. Um, all right, last topic of the day is how injuries may affect offseason decisions. So this right here is really interesting, right? Because all of a sudden the Atlanta Falcons has had a flurry of injuries. Um, Now let's recap. So they started off the season, right, and you know didn't really know the impact of these 2 guys because we never really got to see them um, on the field at all. Really, we're talking about Caleb McGarry, right? He got hurt really early in training camp. But I think the loss of Caleb McGarry affected his offense. I really do, right? It may not seem that way. The Atlanta Falcons have had some really good games this season, but the inconsistency, I just think the loss of Caleb McGarry was bigger, and we all, suspected, and it's really showing its head. So I think the loss of Caleb McGarry was huge. Um, Braylon Trice, right? The young pass rusher that Atlanta Falcons drafted last year hurt his leg again this year, right? So that's 2 years in a row. Young man never got an opportunity to even play or get a snap in the NFL. You know, Unfortunate, hated for him. We'll see where his career goes from here. But both of those guys we never really got an opportunity to get with either one of those guys. Um, Zach Harrison, right? Zach Harrison was leading the lead in sacks before he got injured, right? And we haven't seen Zach Harrison. I think, if you go back to kind of chart that 5 game losing streak. He's probably, he's in there somewhere, not playing, being inactive as well. They finally put him on IR. So Zach Harrison is another guy that we lost, um, and had tremendous upside. The things that he was doing, what he was bringing to the table, I think could have definitely helped in the run game, where the Atlanta Falcons are hurting right now. So Zach Harrison going down. Billy Bowman, what happened to him is such a stud, man. Achilles injury, especially for a defensive back, is really tough to come back from. Um, and he just injured it, so we would definitely not see Billy Bowman, until after the start of the season next year. That's more like a year injury, Achilles injury. So we'll definitely have to wait to see, the status of Billy Bowman. Then of course Michael Penix Jr. Um, the growth and of the young quarterback, trying to determine was he's going to be the Atlanta Falcon franchise quarterback, has been put at halt. And at this point in time, I believe that it puts the Atlanta Falcons in a state of flux. And what I mean by that, because so many people want a turnover um, with this regime, right? They want a new head coach, to a lesser extent, they want a new GM. But when you put it in perspective, the injuries, in my opinion, and I'm just saying this because it's incomplete in a way. What I mean by that is we still don't know what we have in Michael Penix Jr. Right? Um, all the other injuries just pile up, and I go back to the um the year where we lost Ken O'Neal, Deion Jones, and we lost the 3 guys right at the middle of our defense. If you guys will remember that year, can't recall exactly what year it was right off the bat, but it was either 17. I think it might have been 17, 18, right? One of the years where the whole starting secondary pretty much got hurt. And when those things happen, what you envisioned for the season and what you thought was going to be, um, never, you know, took took shape like you wanted to be. So, you know, now I can say this: Raheem Morris is already going down before the injuries, right? So you're not giving him a pass, but the whole idea of and I'm going to stick with this: the whole idea of bringing in a new coaching staff, a new GM to a injured young quarterback who they didn't pick, it's going to be interesting to say the least. I just saying it because I don't know if that's what they're doing, and I don't know if it'll be fair to the young quarterback. Just be honest with you, Michael Penix Jr. Because he's not their guy. Any way you look at it, and of course the new coaches, and everybody gonna say, yeah, we're gonna build around him, but they didn't pick him, right? And you don't know what kind of grades or whatever they had for Michael Penix. They might have thought Michael Penix was a 5th round pick, whoever you bring in when they was grading him and stuff like that. So you never know, right? So I think the injuries and the amount of injuries that took place this year, sort of, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it kind of helps Raheem Morris out a little bit for being able to get the first 5 games, because we know Arthur Blank definitely will fire your ass in the middle of the season. It happened to Dan Quinn, so I think if he does come back, it'll be on a short leash. And the reason I'm saying he might come back because of the injuries, right? Because we can honestly say right here, right after week 12 in NFL, we don't know if Michael Penix the franchise quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, right? I mean, it's been rumors out there saying that he might not have another snap in Atlanta, things like that. And you might be right. If they bring in a new coaching staff, they bring in a new GM, they could go in a whole different direction. that could definitely be the case. But I'm not sure that's what Arthur Blank wants to do when the kid might have potential. We just don't know. We never really got a great opportunity to see him, right? Still haven't played a full season yet. And so, in my opinion, just giving up that quick, you know, Martin Madison Day, kids come back from ACLs all the time. So it's not like, he's a receiver or a running back. He's a quarterback, right? And so, yes, we want him to have the mobility, but he don't have to be super mobile and things like that to be able to stand in the pocket and throw the ball. We know he still has the arm talent. Yes, he had a lot of things to work on. Why this season was so important. Why I'm so disappointed about, the outcome of what transpired this season because we don't know what we got in Michael Penix. We just don't. Um, and the fact that you know the person who drafted him, the coach and the GM, they out the door. You bringing in the new. Of course, Arthur Blank going to say, "Can you work with Michael Penix?" They're gonna say yes because they want the job. But deep down inside, how much leeway they're gonna give the guy, how much grace they're gonna give the guy because they didn't pick him. So um, I'm not because I don't want nobody coming at me. I'm not saying the Atlanta Falcons should keep Raheem Morris or Terry Fontenot. This season's been a complete failure. It has. It's been they failed. They missed the mark this season. So if Arthur Blank decides to let them go and start over, it is what it is. I'm just saying. I'm thinking about the young player. I'm not thinking about the coaches at all. I'm thinking about Michael Penix. I do believe that they need to change offensive coordinators. I don't think Zach Robinson is the right guy for him. Um, but I do believe that Michael Penix need people, if he's gonna be the franchise quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, people that believe in him and to believe he has what it takes to be the franchise quarterback. And we know for a fact that Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot believe in him. That's the reason why I'm going out on a limb saying that could be the reason why they return, right? And I still believe that what happens the rest of the season is gonna really dictate that. Just talking about the last 6 games, depends on how Raheem Morris finished this season. It's going to play a part of that as well. But the injuries definitely is going to be a factor. It's got to be because the psyche to the young quarterback. I'm just telling you, man. The problem with the NFL today, and you can see it. You can see in a guy like Sam Darnold. NFL gave up on Sam Darnold, right? He was going back and forth from team to team. He was a backup quarterback. He got an opportunity in Minnesota, and he turned his career around, right? Look at Baker Mayfield the same way, right? Got an opportunity in Tampa. They believed in him, and he turned his freaking career around, right? What everybody was saying about Caleb Williams last year, right? #1 draft pick, of course, but he was struggling. And Ben Johnson come in and he turns, you know, he looks really good. The Chicago Bears is leading the division, right? Look at Bryce Young, especially when he played the Atlanta Falcons. Man, he plays like a #1 draft pick. So you can't give up on your quarterback so quick. And I understand that a lot of things that Michael Penix, was doing, but he still haven't played a full season yet. We saw things that wowed us. We definitely did. You go back to the first game of the season, and you had a winning drive. Of course, the defense blew it, but we have seen Michael Penix make plays, but it's the system is incomplete, man. We don't know what we got in him. So, to put in perspective, as a somebody who drafted the guy, as a GM and coach, they might be saved because of that. And I'm just saying, just saying, not saying they will. I think this rest of this season definitely going to dictate the outcome of the rest of what happens with Raheem. I do think he need to make a coach change at offensive coordinator. Just I believe that. I believe that Um, Zach Robinson is not right for him, right? And we went over to the whole offense, talking about the game recap, and they switched the whole like, why couldn't you do that for Michael Penix? So it's like, I don't know, man. It's really, and they still struggling right now on third down. So the offense did not get better. They made more plays in the game against the Aints, but they still are struggling. They 3 for 12 on third down yesterday. So it's not like the offense got any better. So I just want to say that. But when we talk about injuries, this is huge, right? The number of injuries that they had. We didn't talk about Troy Anderson never came back. Where Clark Phillips at? We didn't talk about Clark Phillips. There's a lot of guys that Atlanta Falcons had on their depth chart um, is not playing right now, right? So that's and could give them a pass. I'm just being honest with you. Definitely could. Not saying it's gonna happen. Not saying that I want it to happen. I'm just saying that I'm looking out for the young quarterback because I think he had promise. I think we still don't know, and I think he should get a fair shot if he comes back healthy. Um, and we know Raheem and Terry believes in him, and I think they will give him an opportunity to prove himself. But if somebody else comes in, we don't know that's going to be the case. Now, the Atlanta Falcons will have to find a quarterback in the meantime. Go through ATAs, go through minicamp, all that stuff. Because Michael Penix will not be ready by then. So, what they decide to do with Kirk Cousins is going to play a factor in that. They do owe him 10 more million guaranteed, which they guaranteed it. If you guys recall, the start of the new league year this year, that's all his guaranteed money. If you go past that, now they get into the rest of that contract, which was not guaranteed, that they will have to pay the fork up. So that's when it started to get interesting. So we want to see what happens, first of all, the remainder of this season, and then we'll start talking about, bringing in somebody, you know, to come in to be that bridge quarterback until Michael Penix can get back up on his feet and running. So that's what we're talking about. Uh, Raquando Doug Williams hurt both legs. Went on, had a great career and won a championship. See, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think that, like, I think it's more not just he hurt his leg. It's the fact that how many injuries he have sustained, and that's where most people are talking about. So that's where it really boils down to. Um, Yep. Fact fan forever say he hope he can bounce back. I think we all want him to bounce back, man. It just it's unfortunate, man, because for me, and I don't know how you guys felt about it. For me, this season was the season to see is was he the guy, right? And we kind of got robbed of that, right? We kind of got robbed of it. I mean, he had 7 games left to see, right? We knew it was not going to be perfect right out the gate. Most young quarterbacks don't, you know. We get spoiled a little bit. What happened over the last couple of seasons, guys? Young quarterbacks came out running, but for the most part, it takes a while. It takes time, um, and if they're decent, you're going to see flashes like we seen this year from Cam Ward, right? What we seen last night for Shadur Sanders, you see flashes of be like, yeah, I can see something there, right? We seen that from Michael Penix. We saw the flashes. We saw the splash plays that he make, and then we saw a lot of inconsistencies, what you're going to get from a young quarterback, but it's incomplete, so we don't know. And the fact that they got injured, and then potentially so much turnover in the coaching staff and stuff, how much grace he's going to get with a new regime. So that's why I'm saying be prepared for you Falcons that want Raheem out the door to the injuries, you know, how they affect what Arthur Blank decided to do with his coaching staff. And I just think that's definitely something that is going to be considered. I can almost guarantee it's going to be considered, right? Um, Terry Fontenot, they drafted him, Raheem, talk to him. So that's definitely going to be considered. Um, do y'all think Michael Penix a guy? And they do, obviously. And if the owner think he's the guy too, they want to see this thing through. I can say this: Dan Quinn got one more year, right? And then he was fired at the 5 games. So expect something like that to happen. If Raheem is able to to be retained for a third season, expect him to be a really short leash, to start the season in 2026. So, but we're jumping the gun. I just want to talk about injuries because when I heard Zach Harrison and Billy Bowman went on IR, I was like, dang man, those all starters, right? Those those starters, right? Zach Harrison, Billy Bowman was so two starters of our defense out. Caleb McGarry, starter, was out. Michael Penix Jr., starter, out. It's a lot of starters. So, you know, does that sway the owner a little bit? Saying, well, you lost all you guys. I'm gonna give you another chance when you get all of them back, and I'm gonna give you're gonna be on the short leash. Could happen. Not saying it's gonna happen. So he said if Raheem gets fired and goes back to the realm, he would try to get Michael Penix Jr. there to be the next quarterback. When damn, that's some Atlanta Falcon crap. If you wouldn't say the least, man. Stuff like that right there, right? You look at Brett Favre, you look at Deion Sanders. That'll be some Atlanta Falcon stuff. 100%. What's up, Rakundo? Look, Kirk play for his team next year. He beat the Aints. We play for the last place in the division. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, man. We beat the Aints, man. We got him. We got him. We got him. Like I said, 6 games left. Let's see how this thing turn out. It's getting kind of interesting to say the least in the NFC South. Baker Mayfield, it was on his non-throwing arm, but he was in a sling and he didn't come back in the game. So that's going to be really, really telltale. Um, and then we'll see what the Carolina Panthers do tonight against San Francisco 49ers. If they lose, they 6 losses to our 7 losses. So now we're to a point where the Atlanta Falcons is right back in the NFC South hunt. They definitely got to win out, but they're back in the hunt where they need to be. So that's going to be really interesting. Then Michael Vick leg get hurt his first season. I think it was second season, if I'm not mistaken. And he came back right at the end of the season, right? Yeah, but he came back and then Arthur Blank rolled him out in a wheelchair, if you guys remember that. So yes, he did get hurt. Yep. All right. So guys, let me know what you think about the Atlanta Falcons this week. It was Victory Monday. We can celebrate beating the Aints, right? You want to celebrate that because that's always something that makes us happy. But it was still a lot, in my opinion. It was left out there. Atlanta Falcons still sucked on third down. They still couldn't stop the run. However, they was able to do what they was not able to do the last couple of weeks, and that was to make plays on defense when they need to make plays. They made plays on offense when they needed to make plays, and that's all you need, right? And that's what they was able to do. And then we can go ahead and nip it in the bud right now because I keep seeing it out there. Right now, Atlanta Falcons got the 11 picked overall, right, in the NFL draft. We do not care about that pick. We got our pick in James Pierce Jr., right? Our 2 first-round picks. Listen to me, guys. Our 2 first-round picks lead rookies in sack, first and second. Our guys. 2 picks the Atlanta Falcons got. Jalen Walker got 5. James Pierce Jr. got 4. And they got 6 games left. So we gave up a first round pick for James Pierce Jr., but I say we got our first round pick in 2026 this year because that was a great pick. And now we got him under contract for another 4 years to develop alongside Jalen Walker. Gotta love it. You gotta love it. So we can go ahead and nip it in the bud about the Atlanta Falcons gave up their first round pick. That pick does not matter. It does not matter, right? So, we did now. It's going to be interesting to see, especially if the Rams go ahead and win the Super Bowl. And they get that pick and then who they end up picking, right? They pick their future, franchise quarterback with that pick. Yeah, Falcons never going to be let it down, but I still believe that the Atlanta Falcons was able to get 2 good players with that trade because we also forget they was able to get Xavier Watts as well, right? So you have to, because they did not have that pick either. So you have to tie in the fact that Atlanta Falcons got James Pierce Jr. and they got Xavier Watts. 2 guys that's going to be with Atlanta Falcons for years to come. So that's the way you look at it. We can go ahead and nip it in the bud. We can start talking about it because those guys they probably, exceeding expectations for their first year. And that's what you got to like about it. John Marino said, okay, Ricona, if we lose against the Jets, are you calling for Morris' job? Man, they can fire Morris tomorrow. So I don't care if he keeps his job or not. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I don't call for jobs. I think he screwed himself by his fact that the coordinators he picked to run his defense and offense, last season, and then continue with Zach Robinson this season. I think he screwed himself, man. So if he get fired, that's on him. That's his fault. So I'm not calling for it because it don't matter. They got to play better, man. But I think Raheem screwed himself. And like my last video, I talked about this, right? If you do fire Raheem Morris, who you bringing in, right? You bringing another fresh, coach that has never coached before. Are you going to go to get a retread coach? What is the game plan, right? I think they need to sit down and they need to be really serious and be intentional about this because they have a talented team, right? And to waste the talent on your team because you don't know who's going to be running the team is going to be crucial. So if they do decide to let Raheem Morris go at the end of the season, they need to be really intentional about who they bring in because the talent is here, and somebody need to put it in place. And I go back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back when they won the Super Bowl in 2002, and Tony Dungy built that team, and John Gruden came in and took them to the Super Bowl. And John Gruden, to his credit, he gives Tony Dungy all the credit for the team they built. But that's what I'm talking about because they had a talented team. You go back a couple of years ago, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just missing a quarterback, right? They bring in Tom Brady, and they go out and win the Super Bowl. You just go to another sport. Look at the Mark Jackson with the Golden State Warriors, right? He builds that team up. They bring Steve Curry in, and they create a dynasty, right? The talent is there. Atlanta Falcons have the talent, right? They need somebody to come in and harness that talent to get it to the next step. Raheem Morris probably is not that guy, right? Let's just be honest about it. He screwed himself. Just bottom line. My only concern is that I want somebody to come in and believe in the young talent and make sure that they don't have any hidden agendas and trying to do some other stuff. So that's my only thing, right? Because at the end of the day, this team is talented, man. You see the like. I mean, look how many young guys are playing on this team, contributing, making plays. I mean, the last two drafts alone, um, for the Atlanta Falcons should say Terry Fontenot his job. Just being honest about it. The last two drafts alone, right? The Brandon Dorlus, Root Roar, James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker, Xavier Watts, Billy Bowman, Zach Harrison, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. I mean, wow, right? Then you get acquisitions like um, Jesse Bates the third. Like, I mean, the guy has hit the team building part out of the box, man. Yes, we have misses. You're gonna have misses, right? That's just the nature of the beast. You're not gonna hit on everything, but for the most part, man, that's a really good young nucleus that has been built here. Tyler Algier, man. I mean, it's Matthew Bergeron. They got a great young nucleus that they have built here. They found diamonds and roughs like, D. Alford. Not last year, the way, but he been playing this year. He's really been playing really good football this year. Ryan Newsel picked up his center. Like, this is a really good, well, put together team. They're missing holes. They got holes all over the team. We see it. We see the holes now because they're magnified, right? Can't stop the run, things like that, But for the most part, man, they put a good team together. Just not being being freaking put in the right spot to make the things that they get wins, man, and they failing. So Raheem Morris can go, but just somebody they do bring in need to take that talent and don't waste it, man. That's all I'm saying, right? We don't want nobody come in. You bring in a newbie that trying to figure it out. Don't waste the talent, man. You're gonna waste it. Don't waste the talent of Bijan Robinson, Drake London, right? Don't do it. That's all I'm saying. We need a coach with playoff and Super Bowl experience. There you go. Hey, I like there you do what you do. Um, Obrecht should be the head coach. Yeah, man, he got that defense. He got a defense humming. I'm gonna tell you that. You know, all fairness to him, he missing a stout defensive tackle in the middle because you need a run stopper, man. If we had that, man, that defense be really good. Maybe we should have traded for Quentin Williams. Maybe we should have traded for Quentin Williams, man. That would have been really really nice. Just as Ober acts like the Detroit head coach would be perfect. Yeah, Dan Campbell. Yep. Kubiak. I think it should be the OC, man. If not anything, bring him as OC. I would. I would. I love that. I think he developed Michael Penix right way. So there you have it, guys. That good show tonight. Good show. We talked about the game recap of the Aints, whooping them down. We lead the series by one game, right? Love to see that. The last 6 games, I got Atlanta Falcons winning 4 of them. I know that's crazy, high praise, but they should be favored in 4 of them. Let's just say that, right? They should beat the Jets. They should beat the Bucks, especially if Baker is down. They should beat the Cardinals, right? And they should beat the Aints again. Now the last 2, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna beat the Seahawks, and they're not gonna beat the Rams. Even though both of those games are at home, if I'm not mistaken. So, both of those teams got to come to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and play the Atlanta Falcons. But I don't know if they got a chance to beat both of those teams. So we'll just have to see. But there you have it. And then the last but not least, we talked about how the injuries could affect the offseason and decisions that Arthur Blank is going to make. A lot of people say they should just clean house. start all over. You know, a lot of people saying using the word rebuild, and like I said, the team is talented, so it's not like you need to tear it down. You got pieces, a lot of pieces here. I think you need to get the best out of the pieces you got, and you might need to find the right person for the job to do that. So there you have it. So guys, let me know what you think. Please like, share with all my other Falcon fans out there. Glad to be back. It's Jets week. We'll see what Atlanta Falcons get out. You know, playing these junior Jets this week, um, and let's see can we get another win to have another victory Monday. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.